Hello, everyone. This is your Action News reporter with all the news that is news across the nation on the scene at the supermarket. There seems to have been some disturbance here. Pardon me, sir. Did you see what happened?
Yeah, I did. I was standing over there by the tomatoes, and here he come, running through the pole beans, through the fruits and vegetables, naked as a jaybird. And I hollered over to Ethel. I said, "Don't look, Ethel!" And it was too late. She'd already been incensed.
Here comes
Boogie-dad, boogie-dad.
There goes
Boogie-dad, boogie-dad.
And he ain't wearing no clothes.
Oh, yes, they call him the street.
Look at that,
Fastest thing on 2 feet.
look at that.
He's just as proud as he can be of his anatomy. He gon' give us a peek. Oh, yes, they call him the street.
Look at that,
He likes to show off his physique.
look at that.
If there's an audience to be found, he'll be streaking it round, inviting public critique.
All rise.
This is your Action News.
The Supreme Court of the State of Discovery is now in session. The Honorable Judge Reinhold presiding.
You may be seated. Bailiff, will you call the first case?
The Emperor of Broome versus Elizabeth the Tailor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you're about to hear the case of the Emperor's new clothes. In this case, the plaintiff, His Majesty the Emperor of Broome, is suing the defendant, Elizabeth the Tailor, for $10,000. The Emperor claims that he had an agreement or contract with Elizabeth to buy a certain suit of clothes. He claims that he paid her the $10,000, but she never gave him the clothes. He wants his $10,000 back. He also claims that he was greatly embarrassed because of Elizabeth's actions. Elizabeth, on the other hand, claims that there was never a contract to buy clothes. Elizabeth takes the position that whatever happened to the emperor was his own fault, and that she is entitled to keep the money that she earned by working as a tailor for the emperor. After you hear from the witnesses in this case, you will decide who is right and who is telling the truth. Until the case is over, I ask that you keep an open mind and listen to all of the witnesses carefully. Would the attorneys please state their names for the record?
Yes, Your Honor. My name is L. Fee Bailey, and I am the Emperor's attorney.
Barney Decker, Esquire, Your Honor, representing the defendant, Elizabeth the Tailor.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Bailey, are you ready to begin?
Yes, Your Honor. I call the Emperor of Broome.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated.
Would you please state your name?
I am the Emperor of Broome.
Your Majesty, how do you know the defendant?
Well, about a year ago, I was holding an imperial fashion show. It was very nice. I was premiering my new fall line. Anyway, after the show, this tailor approached me and told me about a wonderful new fabric she wanted to sell me. I told her I was very interested. Clothes are very, very important to me.
I see. And what kind of fabric was she selling?
She said she could make me a fabric that would be finer than the finest silk, and it would be magical.
And what did she mean by magical?
She said that it would be invisible to fools.
And did you buy any of this magical fabric from her?
No, but I told her I would pay handsomely for a suit of clothing made from the fabric. She wanted $10,000.
And did you agree to these terms?
Yes, I gave her $5,000 up front to cover expenses, and she went right to work. Or so I thought, but...
But what?
But there was never any fabric, none at all. She would come in and hold up her arms and say, "Oh, look, Your Majesty, look at the colors, look at the texture." But there was no fabric.
And did you tell her you couldn't see anything?
No,
And why not?
because I didn't want anybody to think that I was a fool.
I see. And what else happened?
Well, about 4 months later, she comes in holding up some empty hangers and she says, "Oh, look, Your Highness, look at the beautiful coat. See the embroidery? Isn't this a beautiful pair of pants?" But there was no suit of clothing.
And what did you do?
I said it looked fabulous. I didn't want anybody to think that I was a fool.
And then what happened?
Well, I started to get undressed, and Elizabeth said that she would help me on with my new clothing. But I wasn't wearing any clothing, except my underwear.
And was there some sort of parade?
Oh, yes. The Duke of Snyder and James, the Earl of Jones, had scheduled a grand parade to show off my new clothes.
And what happened at this parade?
Well, I was walking down the street in my underwear. Everybody was laughing. It was humiliating. They said that I was a fool.
Your Majesty, what was your agreement with this tailor?
We had agreed that she would make me a new suit of clothing out of a wonderful new fabric, and I would pay her $10,000.
And did you pay her the money?
Yes.
And did she make you the new suit of clothes that she promised you?
No.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Mr. Decker?
Emperor, how long did Elizabeth the tailor work for you?
She was in the palace about 4 months.
And what was she doing in the palace for 4 months?
She would stand in front of the loom and push it back and forth.
Isn't it true that you hired Elizabeth to be your palace tailor at a salary of $10,000?
No, she had agreed to sell me a new suit of clothing.
Do you recognize this document?
Yes, it's an imperial proclamation.
Would you read it to the jury, please?
I, the Emperor of Broome, do hereby proclaim that Elizabeth the tailor be appointed imperial tailor.
Thank you. Now, you claim that Elizabeth caused you embarrassment. Is that correct?
Yes, she made a fool of me in front of all my subjects.
She did. How?
She made me believe that suit was real.
Do you expect this jury to believe that you walked down through the middle of town in a big parade wearing only your Fruit of the Loom underwear, but you thought you had clothes on?
Well, yes.
One more question. Are you wearing clothes right now?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure you knew the difference. No further questions, Your Honor.
You may step down. Is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Elizabeth the tailor.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated.
Elizabeth, what do you do for a living?
I'm a tailor.
Are you married?
I'm currently between husbands.
Do you recall meeting the Emperor about a year ago?
Yes. He kept complaining that his tailors weren't inventive enough, so I decided to see if I could get a job.
Did you ever offer to sell the Emperor a set of new clothes made out of some magical fabric?
Sell? No. I told him I'd put him in a suit like no other, but I never sold anything. I just was trying to get a job.
And did he hire you?
Yes, he did.
As what?
As His Majesty's Imperial Tailor.
And did you go to work in a palace tailor shop?
Yes. Every day, 8 hours a day.
And did the Emperor pay you?
Yes, I received a salary of $10,000.
One more question. Did you have anything to do with that parade?
Nothing. I wasn't even in town that day.
No further questions, Your Honor. Your witness.
Mr. Bailey?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Taylor, isn't it true that you promised to sell the Emperor a new suit made of a brand new fabric that you said would be finer than the finest silk and have magical qualities.
No.
You denied that.
Well, the only thing I ever told him was that I'd put him in a suit like no other. And I did. It was his birthday suit.
That's very amusing. But the fact is, you never made a new suit, did you?
Not really.
So you lied.
The only thing I ever lied about was what the fabric looked like. But I showed him what I had, and he could see there was nothing there.
And yet you accepted his money.
Yes, the money was for my services, not for the suit. It was my salary.
And didn't you also tell him that the fabric was invisible to fools?
Yes.
And that too was a lie.
Well, it was more of a joke, really.
All right, Ms. Taylor. In 1982, you were in prison for embezzlement.
Your Honor, I object. That is totally irrelevant to this case.
Your Honor, it simply shows that if she lied and cheated before, she may very well lie and cheat again.
Objection overruled.
Well, did you go to jail for embezzlement?
Yes, I did. But that was 10 years ago.
Your Honor, I have no further questions for this witness.
You may step down, Miss Taylor. Are you ready with your closing arguments, Mr. Decker?
Yes, I am, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'll be brief. The Emperor, a man who claims to be a fashion expert, the Beau Brummel of Broome, claims that a tailor convinced him that an invisible piece of nothing was actually the finest piece of garment in the land. Now, this is totally ridiculous. The only thing that tricked the Emperor was his own pride. He was so afraid that his people would think he was a fool that he walked down the middle of the street in a big parade wearing his Fruit of the Loom underwear. Thank you.
Mr. Bailey?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the jury, this is a simple case. This tailor made a deal with the Emperor to make him a brand new suit for $10,000. The Emperor paid his money, but the Emperor never got the new suit. He never got anything. The Emperor wants his money back, and that's only fair, isn't it?
Members of the jury, you have heard both sides of this case, and it is now up to you to decide what should be done. You decide who told the truth, who should be believed, and whose testimony was more accurate. The Emperor's claim is for breach of contract. If two people have an agreement and one person breaks that agreement, there is a breach of contract. The Emperor must prove that there was an agreement to buy a suit of clothing, and he must prove that the tailor breached that agreement by failing to provide that suit. The tailors claim that she never agreed to sell anything. The Emperor also claims he suffered embarrassment as a result of the parade. In order to find Elizabeth responsible for this embarrassment, you must decide that she caused it. If you find that the Emperor was to blame for this embarrassment, you should find in favor of the defendant. Please retire to the jury room, discuss the case amongst yourselves, and report your decision. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is your Action News reporter with all the news that is news across the nation on the scene at the supermarket. There seems to have been some disturbance here. Pardon me, sir. Did you see what happened?
Yeah, I did. I was standing over there by the tomatoes, and here he come, running through the pole beans, through the fruits and vegetables, naked as a jaybird. And I hollered over to Ethel. I said, "Don't look, Ethel!" And it was too late. She'd already been in since.
Here comes,
Boogie that, boogie that,
there goes,
boogie that, boogie that.
and he ain't wearing no clothes.
Oh, yes, they call him the street.
Look at that,
Fastest thing on 2 feet.
look at that.
He's just as proud as he can be of his anatomy. He gon' give us a peek. Oh,
critique. If there's an audience to be found, you'll be streaking it round, inviting public critique.
All rise.
This is your action news.
The Supreme Court of the State of Discovery is now in session. The Honorable Judge Reinhold presiding.